Chapter 126. TCH, another 4 wins in a row. Looks like it's not just Guido and his crew, plenty of others are watching me too. After ending his call with Dokino, Ush rubbed his chin and muttered to himself. Originally, his plan was to finish his training at the Sky Arena quickly, so he signed up for 10 consecutive matches. He figured it would take at least half a month. But clearly, things weren't going according to plan. At this rate, he was going to reach floor master status in less than 3 days. It was fast, so fast that even speed-type fighters might feel anxious about it. Whether it was luck, skill, or just the right timing, Ush didn't know. But for him, this development was a good thing. Just like that, time passed. The next day arrived. Winner: Mr. Ush, victory by forfeit. Winner: Mr. Ush, victory by forfeit. Winner: Mr. Ush. Let us observe a moment of silence for Mr. Kenshi. Winner: Mr. Ush, victory by forfeit. 4 matches. 3 opponents forfeited. The fourth, Kenshi, refused to back down, stepped into the ring, and died. That was the moment Ush's reputation for killing unfriendly newcomers solidified. But truthfully, Ush never intended to kill him. It was just bad luck. Kenshi had set up a strange Nen ability. His aura automatically converted incoming damage into stress on his heart. Ush, not knowing this, aimed a solid punch at Kenshi's chest, planning only to knock him out of the ring. Instead, Kenshi convulsed and collapsed dead on the spot. Damn. I thought this guy was playing dead, but he was actually dead. Ush had muttered in disbelief. He didn't expect his punch to be fatal. In theory, he mused, if that guy had a stronger heart, his ability would have been insane. It was a creative Nen concept, turning injury into stress. Wait. What if he actually had heart disease? Ush blinked. That would explain why a third-rate Nen user like Kenshi would develop something so oddly specific. The more Ush thought about it, the more it made sense. If Kenshi unknowingly used Nen's restriction and oath mechanic to reinforce his ability, it would have boosted the technique's strength, at the cost of survivability. But even so, Ush sighed, strong concept or not, weak is weak. And he couldn't handle me. Shaking his head, Ush left the Sky Arena with Nyan and the rest of the crew. Not long after they got back home, another call came from Dokino. More matches. 2 more were scheduled for tomorrow. But they didn't happen. Both opponents forfeited again. Another 2 wins. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. A newbie who just got to the 200th floor becomes a floor master in 3 days, can you believe that? Believe it? Hell, if I hadn't made money betting on Ush, I would have thought the Sky Arena was rigged. Out of 10 matches, 6 forfeits, 3 deaths, 1 escape. This guy isn't the Demon King, he's the Angel of Death. Now I'm really looking forward to the Floor Master Challenge. Who's Ush gonna pick to challenge? I don't even care. I've already made bank off this guy. Same here. Man's a walking cash cow. But I heard someone went broke betting against him. Yeah, and I heard his wife left him and caught the first airship out of town. Anyway, you think anyone will challenge Ush now that he's a floor master? Of course. The only question is when. The reporters are probably losing their minds right now. No kidding. My aunt's second sister won't even leave the arena. She's been camping there for days trying to dig up inside stories. That's kinda dangerous. Right? I mean, she is good looking though. Wait, your aunt's second sister is your wife? As your future brother-in-law, I gotta go save her. The conversation spiraled off into nonsense. Meanwhile, in the registration office. Floor number 233. I'll challenge the current master of that floor, Ush said firmly to the staffer in front of him. Understood, Mr. Ush. You'll receive a response within 15 days. Please keep your phone available. With a polite bow, The staffer left. 15 days. Ush frowned. That's too damn long. Yeah. Nyan pouted. That's such a drag. Ush thought for a second, then smiled. Well, didn't you say you wanted to play around here for a bit? I've got some time now, so I'll stay and keep you company. Without matches to prepare for, his training could only take up so many hours. Ush found himself with free time. Yay! I wanna go to the Wool Haunted Mansion. Nyan cheered. Chapter 127. Hearing Nyan's request, Ush paused for a moment, then nodded with a relieved smile. Nyan's interests and hobbies were definitely not what you'd call normal. But that was exactly what made her special. Maybe it was because she was so different that she never minded Ush's violent side. She never judged his bloodshed, nor the reputation he was building. And because of that, Ush often thought he was truly lucky to have her. With Ush by her side, Nyan didn't need protection from Lynxian and the others while they were out and about. As a result, the rest of the group just followed along at a distance, carrying bags and snacks like glorified porters. Once upon a time, Dokino and the others might have grumbled about plain pack meal. But now, they didn't even consider complaining. They were simply grateful to be there. Time passed quickly when you were having fun. As Ush's notoriety cooled off and new fighters emerged at the Sky Arena, the spotlight gradually shifted. But Ush didn't care. For now, he spent his days training and spending time with Nyan. One day it was a haunted house. The next it was a ghost summoning ritual. The day after that, they'd chase rumors about urban legends around the city. Odd hobbies, sure, but Ush played along. Meanwhile, thanks to the mind training fruit and his rigorous application of Nen refining techniques, his stats continued to soar. Manifest Aura, 4,300. Potential Aura, 49,000. The growth was so fast, even Ush was stunned. However, as he neared that 4,500 threshold, his growth began to plateau. He figured that was the cap for now. He'd need new methods to keep progressing. Maybe another fruit. Or something else entirely. No matter what it was, if it could make him stronger safely, Ush wouldn't hesitate. As for his physical strength, he had already hit 33 tons. At this rate, he'd surpass even Killua's development before the year was out. This was the reward of fully mastering the second stage of aura refinement. Riving. Just as Ush was thinking it might be time to take Nyan back to Yorknu, his phone rang. Mr. Ush, which day in the next 5 works for you? Ush raised an eyebrow. What's this about? Ah, yes. The floor master of 233 has returned. We're ready to schedule your challenge. We just need your availability. Tomorrow works. Excellent. The Floor Master Challenge will be scheduled for 8 p.m. tomorrow evening, on the 233rd floor. Does that work? Yeah, sure. After hanging up, Ush turned to Nyan and said, looks like we'll be staying another day. I thought the old floor master had chickened out. Nyan tilted her head. He is a floor master. I figured he'd show eventually. Ush grinned. With their return plans pushed back, the two spent a calm, quiet day together. Time flew. The next evening arrived. Ush and Nyan headed to the Sky Arena. They reached the 200th floor, then had to transfer elevators to ascend higher. Ding. The elevator stopped suddenly. Huh? That was fast, Nyan blinked in surprise. When she looked up, she saw the display read floor 50. Clearly, someone from that floor was getting on. As the doors slid open, Ush and the boy standing outside both paused. Hey, it's you. You're at Sky Arena too? The silver-haired kid greeted casually as he stepped inside. You're here, so I'm guessing Gon is around too? Ush asked, looking at Killua with a small smile. Yeah, he is. We got here around noon, Killua said with a shrug. I just finished a match, on my way to meet Gon at the 60th floor. Then Killua glanced at Nyan. You bringing her to watch you fight? Nope. Ush is going to the 233rd floor, Nyon chimed in proudly. He's challenging the floor master. What? Already? Killawah's eyes widened. Told you he's strong, Nyon beamed. Killawah furrowed his brows and looked back at Ush. So then, you already know about the secret above the 200th floor. Secret? Nyon looked puzzled. What secret? He means Nen, Ush said casually, answering both Nyon and Killawah at once. Killawah's eyes lit up. So you do know. Of course I do. You'll learn too, once you hit the 200th floor. No way, I don't want to wait that long. Killawah looked at Ush earnestly. You should tell us now. Ush nodded. I don't mind. But I don't really have the time right now. After the floor master match, I'm heading back. So soon? Killawah looked disappointed. Well yeah, Ush said with mock seriousness. School's starting. Unlike you kids skipping class, we're people who value education. Chapter 128. Gon sat near the registration desk, hugging his knees and quietly watching the elevator doors. Soon, he spotted Killawah stepping out of the elevator with a deeply irritated look. Killawah. I got my prize money, 60,000 Jenny. Gon beamed. What's wrong? I just ran into an incredibly annoying guy. Talks about school, lectures like a teacher, but refuses to explain things that would have taken literally 2 minutes, Killawah grumbled. And the worst part? He said he didn't mind explaining Nen to us. I swear, I wanted to punch him in the face. Gon tilted his head in confusion. Who was it? And what were you trying to learn? Who else? That jerk Ush, Killawah snapped. Huh? Ush is here too? Gon blinked in surprise. But you still didn't tell me what you were trying to learn, Killawah. A vein bulged on Killawah's forehead. Without another word, he wound up and flicked Gon's forehead, hard. Ow, OWW. That hurts. Gon whined, patting the spot rapidly. Humph, Killawah exhaled, calming down. Anyway, that guy Ush is challenging a floor master tonight. We should go watch. Not sure if our 60,000 Jenny is enough for tickets though. What? Ush is doing a floor master challenge? Gon's eyes sparkled. Yeah. Haven't seen him in a month and now he's already doing that. He must have picked up something insane lately. Killawah muttered, his eyes gleaming like a curious cat. The two dashed toward the elevators bound for the upper floors. On the way, Killawah mentioned he'd overheard some things about Nen recently. But what? The tickets are sold out? Killawah slammed his palms on the counter in disbelief. That's right. Mr. Ush's Floor Master Challenge has been sold out for quite some time, the receptionist said gently. Killawah jumped back, looking completely stunned. What the hell? That guy's that popular here? No way I'm missing this, I'll sneak in if I have to. But Killawah, the Sky Arena has a ton of surveillance. How are we gonna get in? Gon asked, eyes wide. Ugh. Killawah scratched his hair violently. Since they couldn't get in, the two boys decided to wait outside the arena for the match to finish. Meanwhile, Ush stood in the center of the 233rd floor ring, facing off with the current floor master. To his surprise, the guy hadn't fled. Ush was pleased. The man before him, Tiger Yao, a renowned floor master, had held this position for over 3 years. Now, someone had finally come to challenge that title. Tiger Yao was furious at the idea. He'd read the reports about Ush's opponents dying, and dismissed it as theater. No way a rookie could have real power, he thought. Kid, Tiger Yao sneered, don't think the 200th floor fighters are anything like the trash you beat below. If you seriously think that, maybe go back home and suck on your mama's milk. You've got a long way to go before you can dream about taking my title. Ush, who had been fairly impressed with the man's nen up to that point, now stared coldly. He could excuse arrogance. But once you mentioned his mom. Ho ho. You just activated the kill switch. Ush's smile twisted, and the temperature seemed to drop as he released a wave of aura pressure. The referee, standing nearby, felt it immediately and broke into a sweat. Though he wasn't strong, he did know how to use 10, barely keeping himself from collapsing. He glanced anxiously toward the commentator, desperate for the call to start. Finally, the commentator finished the intro. Start. The referee barked, relieved to get it over with. Whip. In that instant, Ush thrust his hand forward. Tiger Yao didn't even react before his body froze. A moment later, a still beating, blood-red heart pulsed in Ush's gloved hand. He had used his distance ability to instantly shorten the gap between them. Then, activating Ko, he pierced Tiger Yao's chest, ripped the heart out, and held it aloft. Tiger Yao, his eyes wide in horror, reached weakly toward the heart in Ush's hand. Give it back," he wheezed. Without a word, Ush clenched his hand, and crushed it. Just like the iconic Killua heart rip scene, except this time, Ush didn't even get blood on his hands. Why? Because unlike others, Ush had distance manipulation. Why wouldn't he use it? This bastard insulted his mom. He had to die. And Ush didn't hesitate. The arena fell deathly silent for a moment. Then exploded with cheers. The blood, the suddenness, the savage display, set the crowd on fire. Chapter 129. Ignoring the roaring cheers behind him, Ush exited the ring and walked through the contestants' tunnel, heading to meet Nyan and the others waiting outside. Unexpectedly, as soon as he stepped out, he spotted two familiar little figures, one squatting by the wall, the other leaning against it, clearly waiting for someone. Ush would swear on his brand new title as floor master, those two spiky-haired kids were waiting for him. Ush, Gon shouted the moment he spotted him. Watching the two energetic kids run over, Ush could already guess what they wanted. They were here to ask about Nen. "Alright, I know what you're here for, but I don't have time to teach you Nen. You'll need to find someone else," Ush said, raising a hand to stop Gon and Killua from bombarding him with questions. Killua frowned. "Really? Not even a little? I'll give you all the money I make here in Sky Arena, should be close to 400 million Jenny." "This isn't about money," Ush shook his head. "You should know that." Of course Killua knew. If Nen could be bought with Jenny, he would have had it long ago. Still, now that he knew about it, the idea of leaving empty-handed was unbearable. "For the sake of us going through the hunter exam together, I'll give you a basic rundown." Ush paused, then continued. Nen is essentially a supernatural ability developed through training once someone awakens their aura. It's a necessary skill for a real hunter. Hearing this, Gon and Killua froze in surprise. "It's a requirement for becoming a hunter?" they said in unison. "That's right. Only those who've awakened their aura can truly call themselves hunters," Ush said firmly. Killua clenched his fists. "TCH. I haven't passed yet, so it doesn't matter for me. But Gon, he has his license. What happens if he can't awaken Nen soon?" "Nothing fatal," Ush shrugged. "Worst case, someone steals his license. That card's worth a lot, only around 600 were issued this year." Both Gon and Killua looked uneasy. Killua in particular looked grim. Gon, on the other hand, seemed fired up. Killua turned to Ush, determined to say something, but Ush cut him off. "Don't. I really don't have the time, and I'm not going to risk hearing a deal I can't refuse." Because if Killua made a wish, and that girl was involved, Ush didn't want to go anywhere near Nanika. Even with his knowledge of the story, Nanika was still a mystery. A creature from the Dark Continent, wielding near omnipotent power but with unknown consequences. Taking that kind of risk for a shortcut? Not worth it. So Ush quickly changed the topic. You remember that other kid, Zuisai? Killua blinked. You mean Wing? Yeah. He can use Nen, right? He might be able to teach you. You'll never know unless you ask, Ush said casually. Here's a bonus tip, every licensed hunter is supposed to receive Nen training from a mentor. He looked at Gon. So, tell me, who's your teacher? Before either of them could respond, Ush turned to leave. Well, that's all I've got. Good luck. See you around. Thank you, Ush. Really, thank you. Gon called after him, bowing deeply. Say what you will about him, Gon was a genuinely polite kid. If he weren't so stubborn and reckless, he'd be the perfect shonen protagonist. Then again, it's probably unfair to expect a 12-year-old to grasp nuance and restraint. After Ush disappeared down the hall, Killua turned to Gon, eyes gleaming. Let's go find Wing. Huh? Why? Gon asked. Think about it. If Ush is right, and he usually is, then Wing's probably your assigned Nen teacher. Gon blinked. Wait, seriously? Come on already. I want to learn this Nen stuff, Killua yelled, already marching off. Okay, Gon laughed and ran after him. Ush had no idea how soon Gon and Killua would start their real Nen journey. But he was fairly certain they wouldn't reach the 200th floor just yet. When Ush finally reunited with Nyan outside, she gave him a puzzled look. What took you so long? Ran into that white-haired kid and his friend, Ush replied with a wry smile. Is that a problem? Nyan asked curiously. Nah. Let's go. Time to pack our bags and head to the airport, Ush said, taking her hand. Okay, Nyan smiled, clearly pleased, and followed him. Chapter 130. Well, looks like it's going to be hard to find decent opponents here anymore. Ush glanced at the floor master's badge in his hand, his new symbol of glory, and casually passed it to Nyan, who had been eyeing it with sparkling curiosity. Nyan eagerly accepted the badge, examining it front and back. Then, with a satisfied hum, she tucked it into her little bag. That bag already held many of Ush's first trophies and mementos she had begun collecting ever since their relationship started. She used to love collecting various body parts. But now she especially liked collecting Ush's keepsakes. What happens now that you're the floor master? Nyan asked, glancing up as she zipped her bag shut. Leaning back on the sofa, Ush gently patted the back of her hand. Nothing to worry about. If anyone challenges me, the Sky Arena will let me know. With that, Ush and his team had finally wrapped up their Sky Arena journey. A few days later, the Nozra family's private airship carried them back to Ukexen City. Once they landed, they took a car home, returning to familiar streets, and a wave of excited greetings from friends and family. Only when the night quieted and everyone had gone to sleep did the warmth of reunion settle down. The next day, following their return, the Nozra and Ush families gathered again for a formal dinner. There, they finally confirmed Ush and Nyan's marriage plans. They would hold the wedding after the two graduated and finished their college entrance exams. Was it early to talk marriage? Not really. In Ukexen, the legal age was 17, but most people didn't care much about that. Girls in the underworld, especially from gangster families, often married by 15. Marriage wasn't just about love. It was survival. A way to secure a future in a city where few things were guaranteed. Some kids, orphans, street rats, did far worse to make it to the next day. And that's precisely why Ush never told his uncle or the others to shut down their gambling or escort businesses. As exploitative as they might seem, they also gave desperate kids a way to earn. In Ukexen, there were no clean solutions, only survival. After the family banquet, Ush stopped Nozra before he could leave, and called right, his parents, his uncle, and even the shameless blue rat out into the courtyard. Facing their confused expressions, Ush spoke plainly. Starting today, all of you are going to learn how to use aura. I don't care if you don't master it, just learn the basics. You must be able to use 10. Right raised a hand nervously. Ush. I might not have that kind of time, you know. Yes, son, Ush's mother added. The hotel's renovations aren't done yet, and we've got a lot to finish in the next 2 months. Pause. Ush made a T with his hands. 10 doesn't take much time. Learn the technique once, then practice it a few minutes a day. He turned to his mom. Also, I made tens of billions. We're not exactly strapped for cash anymore. You brat. Whoever said there's such a thing as too much money? She chuckled. Still, if it doesn't take long, I guess we can try. Among the group, the ones paying the most attention weren't the adults, they were his uncle and the blue rat. Those two had always been curious about aura techniques. And now, with the chance finally in front of them, they were laser-focused. Ush explained how to open their aura nodes and begin channeling life energy to create Nen. It didn't take long. The method was simple, just daily consistency. Even people with weak talent could eventually awaken their aura. It might take years. Even a decade. But it worked. After finishing the lesson, Ush glanced at the group inside. Yeah, this is probably the best I can hope for. Only a small portion of people in the world became second-rate Nen users. Most Nen users, especially self-taught ones, remained stuck at third-rate forever. Still, even that was a huge leap from regular humans. Just knowing 10 gave them enough durability to survive a car crash. Ush wasn't expecting his family to become hunters. He just wanted them to protect themselves. If it took years, so be it. Orisa, go post the recruitment ad, Ush said suddenly. Recruiting bodyguards and staff had been on his list for a while, but with his time in Sky Arena, it hadn't been a priority. Now, back in Ukexen, it was time. Yes, Master Ush, Orisa said cheerfully, heading out to handle it. Ush watched her leave, then looked around the courtyard. It felt strangely quiet now. And peaceful. He kind of liked it. Chapter 131. When Linxian and the others returned to Ukexen, they had already submitted their resignations. Since Ush had been planning to replace them anyway, he simply agreed and let the group of bodyguards, who had all made quite a bit of money, retire in peace. As for why Orisa didn't leave, it wasn't that Skuvara didn't try to leave with her. It's just that the relationship between Orisa and Nyan was more professional, like employer and maid, rather than close friendship. Because of that, Orisa had offered to train a proper replacement before stepping down herself. Skuvara fully supported the idea. He, too, understood the nature of their relationship. Hey Ush, do we really need to recruit more bodyguards? Nyan asked, clinging to him with a teasing smile. You don't need anyone else, I can protect you. You do know I spend most of my time training, right? I can't always look out for you. That's why we need people to keep you safe, Ush said with a shake of his head. Nyan pouted. Ugh, why are you so busy now? You used to spend all your time with me. Well, maybe if you trained more seriously, I'd take you along, Ush said, lightly flicking her forehead. Nyan covered her forehead, pretending to sulk, then suddenly raised a fist with determination. Fine. Starting today, I'll practice properly. And with that, she immediately began running through the Nen basics Ush had taught her. Seeing her sudden seriousness, Ush nodded in approval. Not bad. Given her innate talent, if Nyan actually applied herself, she'd move past third-rate Nen user status in no time and break into the second tier. TCH. Talent was unfair, but at least Ush's special someone was in the gifted category. 2 days flew by. In that time, only one person applied to be a bodyguard. Ush sighed, feeling the scarcity firsthand. Still, he arranged for the applicant to be interviewed the next day. There wasn't much time left, he and Nyeon would be heading back to school soon. But that wasn't the biggest thing on his mind. Just as I suspected. After my manifest aura reached 4,500 points, the spiritual training fruit lost its effect, Ush muttered, sitting cross-legged in the courtyard of the Nozra estate. This result makes sense. My current mental growth is capped by what I can naturally produce. I haven't absorbed any external spiritual energy. He frowned. If I want to keep increasing my spiritual limit, I'll need an outside source of replenishment. Otherwise, even in this world, most NEN users wouldn't branch off into alternative methods. He thought it over. They take the path of spiritual development because quantity alone can't solve the problem. But wait. If that's true, then even if I design a new fruit, would I be unable to absorb energy with it? That realization stunned him. Ush immediately requested a notebook from the maid nearby. Then he started sketching. Soon, a new concept appeared, a spiritual energy absorption fruit. A theoretical fruit that could absorb spiritual energy from the world to replenish one's own, effectively expanding the upper limit of one's aura. Although the idea was simple in writing, Ush knew the reality. Creating this fruit would be far harder than the spiritual training fruit. After all, spiritual energy was often synonymous with the soul itself. It was incredibly hard to replenish and nearly impossible to quantify. Unless your soul evolved, or you opened some gateway to a higher dimensional soul sea, you were out of luck. Even though he set the fruit's effect to be minimal, anything dealing with the soul was never easy. Letting out a deep breath, Ush committed the design to memory and returned to his room. There, he sat down and began focusing his aura. 1,000. 2,000. 3,000. He didn't stop until he hit 4,500, the limit of his manifest aura. The entire process took just 1 second. Then, with his right hand, he conjured a new fruit. This fruit came out instead. Ush blinked in disbelief at what had appeared. Paramecia type, poison fruit. The user could produce and control venom from any part of their body. Sweat, saliva, breath, all could be turned into highly toxic substances. The entire body could become enveloped in deadly poison. Its drawback? The poison gas would contaminate any food the user consumed, disrupting digestion and causing severe side effects, like constant diarrhea. Frequent use would lead to the user's own body being harmed by their toxins. It was a terrifyingly powerful fruit, easily one of the more dangerous ones Ush had ever conceptualized. But for it to appear now? That shocked him. Even so, without hesitation, Ush ate it. Then immediately began preparing to manifest another fruit. He couldn't risk letting the poisonous abilities activate indoors. If he lost control and started leaking venom, he wouldn't be the only one in danger. Chapter 132. Phew. Another miracle fruit appeared, and with it, Ush consumed another 4,500 points of aura. Zoan type, ancient species, Allosaurus fruit. Crunch. He ate it without hesitation and moved on. Phew. Paramecia type, cream fruit. What kind of useless junk is this? Crunch. Next. One fruit after another manifested in Ush's hand, and one by one, he consumed them. In the process, Ush devoured dozens of devil fruits, some useful, others utterly baffling. But soon, he realized something surprising. Out of the 10 fruits he had generated, all were either Paramecia or Zoan class, none were Logia, and none were based on rules, concepts, or elements. No space, no time, no intangibles. Even though he considered concept-based fruits weak, their manifestation costs seemed absurdly high. Still, that wasn't what he was focused on right now. What he really cared about was finding a way to absorb spiritual energy, and he needed a specific fruit to do it. The issue? Ush only had 51,000 points of aura in total, so he could only attempt a full-powered manifestation once per recharge cycle. By the 11th try, it still hadn't appeared. Ush knew he'd have to wait before trying again. But he hated waiting. Sitting still would waste precious time. After some thought, Ush decided to use refinement, one of the techniques to forcibly convert life force into nen. This wasn't like Ren, which released large quantities of aura outward. Refinement, or gyosei, allowed one to squeeze more aura from latent reserves, accelerating growth. Of course, it burned future potential in exchange for immediate gain. It was usually reserved for emergencies or intense training bursts. Not so exhausted now, Ush muttered as his potential energy slowly recovered. Once full, he tried again. Suddenly, Ush blinked in surprise. He looked down at the fruit in his hand with disbelief. No way. It worked. Astonished, he ate it immediately. And as the fruit dissolved in his mouth, a strange sensation washed over him. His senses sharpened, he could feel something he hadn't before. The gentle pulse of spiritual energy, distinct from aura. And not only that, his body instinctively knew how to absorb it. It had worked. He had successfully manifested the spiritual energy absorption fruit. But confusion followed. That doesn't make sense. Why was this fruit easier to manifest than the others? Ush frowned. He focused his enhanced perception, now able to detect faint spiritual frequencies. And yet, there's nothing? No spiritual energy in the air. How? Where did the human overflow go? He looked up, scanning the sky with a hint of dread. This can't be right. Ush stood up and left the hall, his eyes scanning his surroundings with increasing urgency. He passed a few of the mansion's maids, none of whom had awakened their nen. Is it there? Or not? Ush narrowed his eyes at the air around their heads. He was unsure. He felt something. And yet didn't. Turning to one maid, he instructed, "Call everyone here. I need all the maids gathered, now." "Why yes, Master Ush." The maid stammered and ran off, her face flushed. Soon, all the maids in the Nosra estate were assembled in the courtyard, lined up and facing Ush. Ush said nothing. He simply stood and stared, eyes scanning above their heads, silently trying to perceive even a trace of spiritual leakage. Nearby, Nyan raised an eyebrow at the odd sight. "Arisa, what's Ush doing? Why are all the maids standing in a line while he stares above their heads?" she asked, puzzled. Arisa, equally confused, replied, "I'm not sure, Miss Nyan. But I'm sure whatever it is, it must be important to Master Ush." Nyan smirked. "Important? I think he's just picking a concubine." Arisa gasped. "Miss Nyan. How could you say such a thing? Aren't you upset by that?" Nyan waved it off. "Why would I be mad? You don't understand, Ush is solid as a rock. Not a chance he'd fool around. No reason to doubt him." Arisa looked at her in disbelief. Beside her, Sakura, still under training, just rolled her eyes with a knowing smile. "What's the big deal? My dad hasn't remarried, but he's got plenty of lovers. It's not like I'm clueless." Nyan raised a finger, looking quite pleased. "Exactly." Arisa looked more confused than ever. This was the first time she had heard Nyan speak this way. Just then, Yinki, another retainer, leaned over to her and said, "Sister Arisa, don't overthink it. Master Ush is going to be a major underworld figure someday. Entertainment and women will be inevitable. Miss Nyan knows this, she's just ahead of the curve." Nyan nodded proudly. "That's what my dad says, too." Arisa was left speechless. "Hey hunters. Just a quick break. Love y'all all. Let's dive back in. Chapter 133. Gulp. While Nyan was chatting with her two maids, Ush swallowed hard. I considered so many possibilities. But this is the one I never expected. Ush muttered to himself, eyes fixed above the maids' heads. Clearly, he had seen something completely beyond his expectations, something deeply unsettling. And he was right. That direction. It should be nothing but ocean. Which means, that's the direction of the Dark Continent. Ush turned his head slowly, staring past the city of Yuchin, toward the vast sea beyond. He fell silent for a long while. Ho ho ho. So that's how it is. I thought this world was normal. But I didn't expect. I've been living inside a voodoo doll's cup all along. Ush began laughing. It was a strange laugh, part amused, part bitter. He looked like someone on the verge of both catharsis and breakdown. A minute later, the laughter stopped. His expression turned grim as he stared again toward the sea bordering Yuchin. 3 seconds passed. Then Ush lowered his gaze, dismissed the maids without a word, and returned to his room. He said nothing about what he'd seen. Because he knew, no one would want to know. The truth? The spiritual energy that leaks from the human soul doesn't just drift into the air like he once thought. No, the instant it leaves the body, it's forcibly pulled, ripped away by an unknown force from beyond the sea, from the Dark Continent itself. The pull is not teleportation, but so fast that it feels like it. It explained why Nen exists. But why ghosts, or spiritual remnants, are almost never seen. The soul is devoured before it even has a chance to linger. The truth is so cruel, so existentially horrifying, that Ush decided to keep it to himself. At least. Until he had the strength to flip the table and crush the systems of this world. I knew it. This world isn't the official version of Hunter x Hunter, Ush exhaled, voice low but certain. Then, without further hesitation, he manifested another miracle fruit. The spiritual energy absorption fruit had served its purpose. It was now just a grim reminder of how hopeless the current situation really was. Time for something else. Fwoosh. Paramecia type, wax fruit. Ush looked at it, paused, then decided this one was worth it. At least in terms of creative potential, this fruit had a lot of value. He still longed for a logia type like gas or smoke, but he couldn't manifest them, not yet. Crunch. The fruit vanished into his mouth, and with it, wax-like power surged through his body. Immediately, his distance-type Nen ability kicked in, drawing in life energy from kilometers around him and fusing it into the devil fruit's framework. Strange. Why isn't this energy being stolen? Is it just too weak to be worth taking? Or something else? Ush murmured, pondering aloud as the wax hardened over his body. Putting that question aside, Ush focused on his training. My manifested energy ceiling is stuck. So now I walk the same path as other Nen users, quality over quantity. But unlike others, his quantity was absurdly high to begin with. So even if he shifted focus to refining, the gains would be greater than average. It didn't matter how, so long as it made him stronger. No compromise. That idea, man conquers nature, was rooted deep in Ush's heart. He would never kneel before some unknowable god entity leeching from beyond the sea. In fact, any child from his past life's homeland, raised with reason and resilience, wouldn't entertain the idea of submission either. Gods. They were just overpowered creatures. If there's no way forward, humans would create one. And now, with Nen, and a path that reaches toward the source, Ush would build that way himself. Lack of firepower was a temporary problem. And he had the means to fix it. With that in mind, Ush entered a more focused state of training than ever before. He integrated spiritual refinement into his normal Nen routine, using the wax fruit's properties to enhance the process. As his will fluctuated in intensity, soft white wax began to ooze from his body, spilling across the ground and solidifying into different shapes. Machines. People. Animals. Plants. Food. Toys. A wax museum of creations surrounded him, forming silently from his aura. But they were lifeless, hollow, ghostly, strange. Ush wasn't paying attention to any of it. He was focused. Fully absorbed. Driven by the weight of what he had just discovered. Meanwhile, Nyan, still worried after seeing how serious Ush had been earlier, gathered Arisa and Sakuragi and tiptoed toward his room. They gently opened the door. Ah! Arisa and Sakuragi gasped at the sight inside. The room was filled with strange white wax sculptures, lifelike and still. A chilling scene, like stepping into a nightmare wax museum. Wang Nyan stepped inside, eyes shining with wonder. She walked up to the figures and began admiring them one by one, her awe mixing with admiration. Chapter 134. Huh? Ush was pulled from his meditative trance by a voice nearby. He stopped his training, opened his eyes, and looked toward the door. As Ush's focus broke, a half-finished wax statue next to him stopped mid-formation. It was an animal figure, half elegant, half grotesque, caught between becoming something divine or monstrous. The result was oddly disturbing. Seeing it, Nyan ran over, eyes sparkling with curiosity, and circled around the malformed wax creature in fascination. As for Arisa and Sakuragi, they had seen plenty of gruesome body part collections alongside Nyan before. But even so, the surreal wax figures unnerved them in a different way. This felt unnatural. "Why are you here?" Ush asked, eyes on Nyan. "I was worried about you," she replied, still absorbed in admiring the strange wax sculpture. Ush looked at her, a little exasperated. "If you like it, take it. I'm trying to train, don't distract me." "Okay," Nyan beamed. She picked up the wax statue like a prize and happily skipped out of the room. Arisa and Sakuragi exchanged glances, then quickly followed her out. Now alone again, Ush shook his head and looked around at the wax-covered chamber. With a wave of his hand, the statues melted into a single wax cylinder and rolled neatly to the side. Then, he resumed refining his spiritual energy. Time passed quickly, and before he knew it, it was the final day of vacation. It was also the day Ush had scheduled a bodyguard interview. The result? Predictably disappointing. As expected, the applicant was a third-rate Nen user, and a purely offensive one at that, totally unsuitable for defense or close protection. Ush could only hope someone with a defensive or support type Hatsu would apply next time. For now, recruitment was put on hold. The following morning, school began again. While Ush was juggling study and continued spiritual refinement. Elsewhere, his uncle Grey Rat, leader of the Meteor Gang, was pacing restlessly. "Squirrel, if it really comes to it, maybe we should borrow some money from Ush," Blue Rat suggested reluctantly, glancing at the gang's accounts spread across the table. "No," Grey Rat snapped. "What kind of leader builds a gang from scratch, then fails so badly that he has to beg his nephew for funding? If word got out, we'd be humiliated. We might as well just disband the Meteor Gang now." Blue Rat sighed, frustrated. "It's the damn monopolies. All the profitable trades are locked down by the major gangs. There's no way in unless we either become their subordinates, or fight them." "To become their sub-gang would be a disgrace," Grey Rat muttered bitterly. "And going to war? Ha! Do you think those top-tier gangs don't have Nen users of their own?" If the playing field were equal, Grey Rat would have gone to war without hesitation. But he knew, Nen changes everything. Numbers meant little in the face of real power. "Damn it! We've barely awakened Nen. We haven't even learned 10, let alone formed our own abilities. We're not in a position to challenge them." Hiring skilled NEN users is a joke. We don't have that kind of money, Blue Rat growled. There are only two paths left now, either ask Ush for help, or disband. The room fell silent. Grey Rat clenched his jaw. I don't believe it. There's got to be a way for us to make money, he snapped. There are enough of us. We'll find something. Blue Rat just shook his head. They'd looked. Every viable market was already taken, and the ones that weren't were hunter-tier dangerous. Days passed. Still no solutions. The senior Meteor Gang officers sat quietly in the conference room. Nobody spoke, though a few opened their mouths like they wanted to, but knew Grey Rat wouldn't accept their suggestions. Knock knock knock. A knock echoed through the room. Come in, Grey Rat said wearily. The door opened. Oh? You all look busy. Ush strolled in, smiling. Grey Rat and the others blinked, surprised. Ush? What are you doing here? Just dropping by to give you a suggestion, Ush said casually, stepping into the room. A suggestion? Grey Rat raised an eyebrow. Ush looked at his uncle's tired expression and sighed inwardly. He hadn't come here on a whim. He hadn't even been told by Blue Rat, though the man looked ready to beg. No, Ush had found out from his father-in-law, Wright, just the day before. If Wright hadn't said anything, Ush wouldn't have known that the Meteor Gang, his uncle's pride and joy, was on the verge of collapse. That wasn't acceptable. The gang wasn't just Grey Rat's dream, it was a pillar of his family's livelihood, tied to the success of the Nosra Hotel empire. Even if Ush was now rich and powerful in his own right, he wasn't about to let his family wither in silence. Besides, Ush knew that in half a year, gang wars would erupt across the world. And the Meteor Gang would be key in the chaos to come. That's right, Ush said. I've got a business plan that might just work. He smiled as the officers leaned in. It was time to turn the tide. Chapter 135. You already knew. Squirrel scratched his cheek awkwardly. Blue Rat rolled his eyes, then looked at Ush in surprise. Wait, Ush, you've actually got a way to make money. They had searched high and low, exploring countless money-making options. But every viable industry was already controlled by the big gangs, or simply impossible for their size and resources to break into. Now Ush was claiming he had a real plan? That was enough to shock everyone in the room. I'm sure you've already realized that most businesses in Ukexan are saturated, Ush began. Trying to carve out a piece now would either be a waste of time, or force us into negotiations with other gangs. He paused, briefly recalling his unsettling insight from the Dark Continent days ago. I've got more important things to focus on than turf wars. So if we're not going to fight over old scraps, we go where they haven't gone yet, online. Online? Blue Rat repeated, confused. Ush nodded. We build a platform. This caught everyone off guard. Takeout, shopping, virtual markets, all extremely profitable in other countries. But criminal organizations like theirs had never managed to enter that space. Too many rules. Too much exposure. But what if they could go underground with it? A platform? Squirrel blinked. What do you mean by that? It's simple, Ush said. An online marketplace. Anonymous. Discreet. The sellers list their services clearly, the buyers browse and pay. We act as the middleman, take 20% commission, and let the system run itself. The room went quiet for a moment. Then Blue Rat's eyes lit up. Wait, this is just like our current hair salon operation, isn't it? Only way bigger. Right now, it's all physical. The clients have to come to us. But if we go digital... He stood up, getting more excited by the second. Then we can set up salons everywhere. In every city. And not just salons, escort work, fetish services, even niche stuff. Blue Rat's breathing turned ragged. Even if we take just 5%, it's endless. Ush smiled slightly. Exactly. There are plenty of women who need money, and plenty of men who need a release. But not all of them are willing to walk into a physical storefront. Some of them just want discretion. An app. An alias. And we'll give them that, Ush continued. We don't coerce. It's all voluntary. We're just creating the network and taking a small cut. Supporter culture. Digitized. Ush didn't say it out loud, but the business model reminded him of Fusung's massive escort platforms in his past life. And this was Ukexan, a city of vice, where law was flexible and the poor were desperate. It would explode. Gulp. A few of the Meteor Gang higher-ups hadn't reacted yet, but after hearing the full scope, they couldn't stop swallowing hard. The profits were staggering. And this was just the beginning. The same platform could later host contraband markets, underground gambling, fake IDs, forgery requests. Won't the other gangs try to shut us down? One officer finally asked, voice shaky. Of course they will, Ush replied, calm. Small gangs will love it, more customers, better reach. But the big ones? They'll want to cut. Or try to wipe us out. Blue Rat and Squirrel exchanged nervous glances, then nodded. They weren't afraid of confrontation, but they were worried about their lack of nen strength. We'll deal with them when the time comes, Ush said. Right now, find someone to build the platform. Pay them well. And don't be cheap with hiring, do it right the first time. Then he added, casually, oh, by the way, Uncle, my mom says you're invited to dinner tonight. Just something casual. Squirrel blinked, then laughed. I'll be there. Cool. I'll leave you to it. Ush waved and strolled out of the room. The moment he left, the room erupted. Why are you standing around? Find a damn developer already. And stop pinching pennies, you want us to come fix it for you after we botch it? Blue Rat barked at the others. Yes, we're moving. The rest of the gang snapped out of their daze and scattered to begin work. Soon, only Squirrel and Blue Rat were left behind. Man. We really ended up asking Ush for help after all, Squirrel said, equal parts sheepish and proud. Blue Rat scoffed. Yeah, your nephew's a genius. No need to rub it in. But he smiled anyway. Because deep down, they both knew. This was the start of something big. Chapter 136. Listening to what Ush said. It sounds solid, Squirrel nodded, scratching his cheek, but I have no idea what he actually plans to do. Blue Rat thought for a moment, then guessed, judging from the way he's handling this, I don't think he's going to act personally. Otherwise, he would have told you directly instead of inviting you over. Squirrel agreed with that logic. If Ush intended to handle it himself, he would have just said so. Still, they were both incredibly curious, what exactly was Ush's plan? Time flew by. While the Meteor Gang scrambled to find programmers to build Ush's proposed platform, night fell. Out of curiosity, both Squirrel and Blue Rat arrived early to Ush's house. Ush's mother, surprised but pleased to see her brother again, happily added 2 extra sets of dinnerware without asking too many questions. Seeing this, the 2 gangsters exchanged a glance. Yup. This really is just dinner. They'd assumed Ush would drop some kind of bombshell during the meal, revealing his plan. But from start to finish, he didn't bring it up at all. It left Squirrel and Blue Rat itching with anticipation, yet all they could do was wait. As the evening dragged on, the 2 men watched Ush from the living room couch. He was sitting cross-legged in front of the TV, playing games with Nyan like nothing was going on. By the time it hit 10 p.m., Squirrel finally gave up waiting. Well, Ush, I think we'll head back now. When the platform's ready, just drop by and help me make sure it's all running right, he said as he stood. Ush didn't look away from the screen. "What time is it?" Yinky, one of the maids, answered promptly, 10 o'clock, Master Ush. Ush nodded, then turned to look at Squirrel. "Uncle, just wait 2 more hours. Leave at midnight." Squirrel blinked. 2 more hours? What difference does that make? Blue Rat echoed, "Yeah, what for?" Even Nyan looked curious. "What happens at midnight?" Everyone turned their attention to Ush. "Because in 2 hours, Ush said with a grin, we'll be in March." "So?" Nyan tilted her head, confused. "Exactly, so what?" Squirrel and Blue Rat didn't get it either. Ush chuckled and looked at Nyan. "Aren't you curious?" "I am Tilda." Nyan nodded eagerly. "You'll find out soon enough," Ush said, refusing to spoil the surprise. "Aw, come on." Nyan pouted, grabbing his arm in protest, but Ush held firm. Time passed slowly. Everyone sat in quiet anticipation until the clock finally struck midnight. "Orisa," Ush suddenly said, "you're planning to resign, right?" Orisa blinked, caught off guard. "Yes, Master Ush. I was planning to resign and get married." Ush nodded. "I see. Then before you go, why don't you and Yinky head to the kitchen and bring out some late-night snacks? Nyan, what do you want?" Nyan thought for a second. "Dessert." "Great. Bring dessert," Ush ordered calmly. The 2 maids bowed and left the room. Squirrel and Blue Rat exchanged looks. They could tell Ush was deliberately sending the maids away. Orisa and Yinky sensed it too. What they were about to discuss wasn't meant for servants' ears. The kind of information that, if overheard, might get you roped into a permanent job. Or killed. Unless Ush no longer cared about Nen's secrets being leaked, which clearly wasn't the case, yet. Clap clap. Ush's hands drew everyone's attention back. Then, from the floor, no one knew when it had appeared, he picked up a strange fruit. "All right. Time to talk." He turned to Squirrel. "Uncle. Come here. Eat this." Squirrel pointed to himself in confusion. "Me?" Blue Rat nudged him forward. "Just do it." Still unsure, Squirrel stepped up and picked up the strange fruit. It looked bizarre, but not poisonous. Crunch. He took a bite and looked at Ush. "Keep going. Eat all of it," Ush said with a wave of his hand. Crunch. Crunch. Squirrel obeyed, chewing quickly until he swallowed the last bite. "Now what?" he asked, looking confused. "What happens next?" "Feel it," Ush grinned. "The power you have now." Duane. Without warning, Squirrel's neck flopped over like a wet noodle, and he collapsed to the floor with a dull thud. Superhuman type, rubber fruit. The devil fruit that granted Monkey D. Luffy his iconic rubber body, except this version was conjured from Ush's 4,500-point Nen manifestation. Even Ush was surprised. It made him wonder, was there a difference between a 2,000-point rubber fruit and a 4,500-point one? There had to be. Otherwise, his system would be flawed. Ush didn't believe that for a second. Chapter 137. "Ha ha ha, uncle, you look hilarious right now." Ush burst into laughter as he pulled out his phone and started snapping pictures of Gray Rat. Blue Rat, who had been stunned at first, relaxed after seeing Ush laugh, realizing that whatever had just happened wasn't dangerous. Then he started laughing too. "Ha ha. Gray Rat, you look ridiculous. You can't even control one ability." Blue Rat grinned, finally realizing something was up with the fruit Gray Rat had eaten. But still, what exactly was Nen? It could give people abilities now. Blue Rat looked at Ush with awe. After training with Nen for some time, he and the others had come to understand how incredibly difficult it was to awaken it. They hadn't even been able to open their aura nodes. He'd heard that Nen could be forcibly awakened, but based on his own talent. He figured there was an 80% chance he'd die trying. He thought he'd be lucky if he could learn basic 10 someday and just use it for defense. But this? Ush could just grant people abilities? This was hope. Real hope. Damn it. You think it's easy to control a power you just got? Why don't you try it? Gray Rat shouted it at Blue Rat. Even though he was clearly frustrated, the strange way his rubberized body twisted and wobbled made his angry face comical. The distorted expression and jerky movements made it hard to take him seriously. Ha ha. I can't, Uncle, stop. If you keep moving like that, I'm gonna die laughing. Ush wiped tears from his eyes, gasping. Ah, what's happening to me? Blue Rat suddenly cried out. Ush turned his head, and his eyes widened in surprise. Then, a slow smile spread across his face. Not one of amusement, but of genuine, thrilled excitement. Looking at the distorted shapes of Gray Rat and Blue Rat's bodies, Ush muttered, a rubber fruit at 4,500 Nen points. It's in an awakened state. Typically, Paramecia-type devil fruits granted powers that affected either the user's body or allowed them to manipulate a specific material. But once awakened? Then the power extended to the environment. For instance, a regular string fruit user could only produce string from their body. But after awakening, they could turn an entire island into controllable thread. Apparently, the rubber fruit had a similar awakening. It could convert not just objects, but even people, into rubber. That was huge. Uncle, try using your ability on me, Ush said, eyes glinting with curiosity. Gray Rat, still a bit clumsy, nodded and extended his rubberizing aura toward Ush. As the transformation hit, Ush felt a strange force trying to morph his body's properties. He responded instinctively, channeling his Nen to resist. TCH. It broke, Ush said with a disappointed sigh. So the rubber transformation wasn't absolute. A Nen user could resist and nullify the effect with enough control. Which explained why Gray Rat and Blue Rat had both turned into wobbly messes, while Ush looked mostly normal. Realizing this, the trio exchanged looks, then all three burst into laughter again. Gray Rat had thought his new ability might finally put Ush in an awkward position. No such luck. Try it again, Uncle, Ush said. All right. Gray Rat complied. This time, Ush didn't resist. And just like that, his body slackened, arms drooping to the floor. But with his incredible Nen control, Ush adjusted his posture slightly, and the limp hands snapped back into place like recoiling rubber bands. As he got used to his new rubber body, Ush smiled. Not bad. Even if it can be broken with resistance, it holds up well if maintained. Originally, he just wanted to give his uncle a basic power to help him handle weaker opponents. He hadn't expected the awakened version of the rubber fruit to materialize. What a stroke of luck. In that case, Ush clapped his hands to get their attention, no need for a full lesson. I'll just explain how to use it right now. He looked at Gray Rat, Blue Rat, and Neon, who were watching with wide eyes. The core of the rubber ability is elasticity, Ush explained. Stretch your arms and use the recoil to punch harder. Same with kicks, use the flex to boost force. Bang. Bang. Ush demonstrated with a couple of fast punches and a spring-loaded kick. The power was obvious, enhanced by both strength and elastic momentum. Gray Rat and Blue Rat's eyes lit up. In addition to normal moves, Ush continued, you can develop more advanced applications. Like turning your limbs into biological pumps, forcing blood to circulate faster. That'll boost your body's temperature and activate your cells, increasing both power and speed. As he spoke, Ush shifted into a horse stance, then flexed downward. ZZZT. 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 With a pressurized push from his legs, steam hissed from his pores, and his skin started to turn red. Chapter 138. Whoosh whoosh. Ush's figure flickered across the room, moving so fast that it looked like he was teleporting. Gray Rat and Blue Rat could barely follow his movements. Gulp. Watching this display, both men swallowed hard, eyes wide with a mix of awe and anticipation. The faster Ush moved, the more excited they became. If this was the potential of the rubber fruit, they wanted in on it. When you accelerate your blood flow, your body naturally becomes stronger. If you control it well, you can do something like this, Ush said, stepping into a punching stance. He struck the air. Bam! A dense shockwave erupted from his fist and shot toward a tin can across the room. The can was blasted backward, a clean hole punched through its center. Gray Rat and Blue Rat both gaped. Their excitement only grew. The real strength of this fruit, Ush continued, isn't just in the elastic body, it's in how you apply it. What else can it do? Gray Rat asked, still reeling from the shockwave punch. Ush didn't answer with words. Instead, he bit into his thumb. Bone balloon. He took a deep breath and blew into the joint of his thumb. Gray Rat and Nyan watched in disbelief as Ush's right arm rapidly inflated like a balloon, his fist ballooning to over 2 meters in diameter. It would have kept growing, but Ush stopped to avoid damaging the room. Biting into your bones and blowing into them causes the fist to expand. Pretty useful, right? Ush flexed his enormous fist for emphasis. But this room's too small, so I won't do a full demo. He released the air, and his fist quickly returned to normal size. This was an advanced move, like Luffy's Gear 3rd, but Ush noted that neither Gray Rat nor Blue Rat had the prerequisite armament hockey to pull off the full Gear 4th equivalent. Still, it was impressive. Both men were stunned speechless until Ush's voice brought them back to reality. All right, that's enough. You two should start practicing how to stay in a normal state. The two men nodded eagerly and began trying to stabilize their rubberized bodies. While they practiced, Ush returned to his own business. It was early March, and spring was one of the 3 seasons where he could store multiple devil fruits in his body. From March through November, the ambient conditions supported this mechanic. Outside of those months, he would have to sacrifice one fruit to keep another active. Between the rubber fruit and the wax fruit, Ush had a clear preference. Though the awakened rubber fruit was strong, the wax fruit gave Ush incredible versatility. He could mold nearly anything, objects, constructs, even intricate machinery. The only real weakness was that the wax was vulnerable to heat. Still, with Ush's engineering knowledge from his past life, he could create machines more precise than most factories. He could even replicate vehicle parts with wax, nearly everything except heat-exposed engines. After completing 9 months' worth of energy storage, Ush made his decision: he would not deactivate the wax fruit. His uncle would remain the one to wield the awakened rubber fruit for now. As for his parents? He wasn't worried. Ush protected them at night, and Gray Rat had reliable people watching them during the day. A single phone call and Ush could teleport to them instantly via his distance-based Nen ability. His parents were busy overseeing renovations anyway. Even the hotel was now being managed by Bessie, the former front desk clerk, now promoted to manager. Soon, Gray Rat and Blue Rat succeeded in stabilizing their forms and returning to normal. Once Ush confirmed they were safe, he began seeing them off. He had school in the morning and couldn't afford to stay up late, especially not with Nyan, who needed her sleep even more than he did. After a light snack prepared by Arisa and Sakuragi, Ush and Nyan got ready for bed and quickly fell asleep. The next day, Ush woke early and went to school as usual. Nyan, on the other hand, was dragging her feet, yawning every few steps, clearly still recovering from the late night. On the surface, things had returned to normal. But at the Meteor Gang's headquarters, things were anything but quiet. The news that their boss, Grey Rat, had acquired a powerful Nen ability, and could share it with others, spread like wildfire. The Meteor Gang was in shock. And then, ecstatic. After testing, they learned that Grey Rat could temporarily share his awakened rubber ability with others, up to 9 people. The duration varied depending on the number of recipients. 9 people, under 10 minutes. 7 people, 1 hour. 5 people, up to 3 hours. This wasn't limited by aura, it was based on Grey Rat's mental stamina, and could be improved through meditation and training. Now, the senior members of the Meteor Gang felt more confident than ever. They had real power, and the hair-washing platform Ush had proposed was moving forward faster than expected. The plan was coming together. And this time they wouldn't be playing small. Chapter 139. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Well, with those last tweaks you just mentioned, everything looks solid now. Just a few minor issues left, Ush said with a smile as he raised his eyes from the laptop in front of him, glancing at the anxious Grey Rat and the other Meteor Gang executives nearby. That's great news. Someone from the gang exclaimed, their voice filled with excitement. Minor issues meant they could officially launch the platform as early as today. All right, you all keep doing your thing. I've gotta head back, Ush said, standing up and waving a hand casually. Before anyone could respond, Ush vanished on the spot, right before their eyes. Even though they'd seen it before, the Meteor Gang leaders were still stunned by his method of disappearing. The sense of pride they just felt was once again replaced with humility. Compared to Ush, they were still far too weak. But then they remembered, Ush was on their side. The moment that thought hit, excitement replaced the unease. They had nothing to fear, others should be afraid of them now. Let's go. Finalize those updates. We don't have time to waste. Grey Rat snapped them back into action, and the team got to work. Several hours later. Hey, handsome, can you buy me a drink? A curvy woman with dark skin and overly theatrical makeup called out flirtatiously to a passing man. Her name was Menxi. She'd lost her parents at a young age and had been scraping by on her own ever since. In her youth, she didn't even need to walk the streets, men would line up at her door. But by the time she hit 30, she'd become overweight, and fewer men came knocking. Eventually, Menxi was forced onto the streets to try and survive. Her voice caught the attention of several passing men. A few glanced over and moved on. Some stopped and looked her up and down. Menxi held her head high, trying to show confidence. But when a small group of men walked in her direction, her heart briefly lifted, until they passed her by and approached a group of younger, prettier girls laughing near a cafe. She stared at them, then chuckled bitterly to herself. A minute later, the men and the girls disappeared into a tea shop. Menxi stayed silent, lost in thought. Sis Menxi, no luck again? Came a youthful voice. She turned around and saw a bald-headed teen grinning at her, Leo, a boy with no family like her. Leo, you little brat. You came here just to laugh at me, didn't you? Menxi grabbed his ear and yanked. Ow. Ow. It's gonna tear. It's gonna tear, have mercy, sis. Leo howled. After a good tug, Menxi let go, laughing. She didn't actually resent Leo. They had similar stories. She'd chosen to survive with her body, Leo chose to survive through hard work. Recently, Leo had been lucky, he joined the Meteor Gang. If not, a boy with looks like his might have ended up like her. Or worse. Alright, what do you want? Hurry up and say it, don't mess with your sister's business, Menxi said with mock irritation. Good news. It's something that concerns you, Leo grinned. He handed her a leaflet. Sparkles emoji, wash and relax, the new era of connection, Sparkles emoji. Bringing people together worldwide, all from the comfort of your home. Still struggling to find clients? Join us. Your profile will be seen by customers everywhere. There will be people who want what you offer. Download Wash Me, Love Hub today. Start earning without ever leaving your house. After reading the flyer, Minxie's heart pounded. If this was real, it was huge. She felt both afraid and oddly hopeful. You're serious? She looked at Leo with wide eyes. It sounded too good to be true. And if it was a prank, it would be a cruel one. Totally serious. This was created by my boss and the gang. We're pushing it out now. All the girls in the Meteor gang have signed up already. And from what I hear, there's a constant stream of clients looking to relax. Leo leaned in closer. So, what do you think? Wanna try it? Minxie's eyes narrowed. Why do you sound so eager, though? Leo rubbed his head and laughed. Okay, you caught me. Every time I help someone sign up, I get a bonus. And if I bring in a client? Another bonus. He smiled sheepishly. So, would you mind putting my name down as your referral? Minxie squinted, then broke into a grin. You little devil. But sure, go ahead. I'm no good with apps anyway. Help me sign up. Awesome, Leo said, taking her phone and getting to work. His fingers moved like lightning. Clearly, he'd done this many times before. And as he typed, Minxie found herself wondering. Could this really change her life? Chapter 140. Ding. Hey, Sister Minxie. Someone just bought your profile, Leo exclaimed, barely able to contain his excitement. He had just finished setting up Minxie's profile, and before he could even return her phone, a client had already made a booking. What? You brat, did you just fill out my info randomly? You trying to ruin me? Minxie shouted in disbelief. She had initially thought about fudging her information, but Leo warned her earlier, if you entered false data, the Meteor gang would step in. She might be bold, but she wasn't dumb enough to mess with a mid-tier gang. No way. I swear I didn't make anything up. If the boss found out, I'd be dead. Someone really saw your profile and paid for it, Leo said hurriedly. Seriously? Minxie snatched the phone and stared at the screen. Sure enough, everything was real. Her pictures. Her info. All accurate. And someone still booked her. Ding. Again. Another one, Sister Minxie. Wow, I didn't expect you to be so popular, Leo said with genuine surprise. You little devil, fine, I'll let it go this time. But I've got work to do. Can't keep the customers waiting, Minxie said, pushing Leo's forehead playfully before waddling off toward the location provided by the client. It wasn't far, but Minxie was nervous. She worried it might be a setup. A prank. But as soon as she met the client, she saw the look in his eyes. That unmistakable look. The kind of look men used to give her when they wanted to buy her a drink. It wasn't fake. With a knowing smile, Minxie walked over. There were many stories like Minxie's in Ukexin City. Not just because the Meteor Gang shampoo middle.love hub app worked, it was because the rules of the city had long since rotted. Ukexin had been steeped in the three poisons, sex, drugs, and violence, for so long that even the sunlight that touched it seemed tinted black. That Ush managed to live a stable life here until age 18, before awakening his nen, was nothing short of a miracle. In truth, it was thanks to his uncle. If not for that, Ush's family would have either gone bankrupt and fled the city, or Ush himself would have ended up just another one of Ukexin's many orphans. For his family's sake, his uncle never married. Some relatives feared that having a wife and children would become a burden. But no one could deny how much that man had done for them over the years. That was why Ush always did his best to help him. And help he did. In just 3 days, the Meteor Gang's fanmtl hub app exploded across Ukexan. It became the go-to platform. Whether people used it or not, everyone knew about it. Even those who didn't need the service downloaded the app, if only to keep an eye on market trends. After all, why sneak around for a haircut when you could have it done at home? If the neighbors asked, just say she's your girlfriend. And if the neighbors also recognize her? Easy, wig and mask. The platform's rapid growth caught the attention of other gangs. More than the platform itself, they were laser-focused on the profits. The Meteor Gang didn't disclose their numbers, but the math wasn't hard to do. Just look at the platform's average booking cost, estimate total transactions, subtract commission, and boom, revenue. And what they saw left them speechless. In just 3 days, the app had processed over 30,000 transactions. At an average of 20,000 Jenny per service. That's 600 million Jenny in bookings. Even with a conservative cut, the Meteor Gang pocketed over 30 million Jenny in profit. And the most ridiculous part? 25,000 of those bookings happened on day 3. And the growth wasn't slowing down. The other gangs were stunned, and furious. The Meteor Gang was making money hand over fist while they stood by and watched. Of course, it didn't take long before someone tried to copy them. Soon, rival platforms started popping up, blatant clones of fanmtl hub. Naturally, Grey Rat couldn't let this slide. He knew if they didn't act fast, a dozen knockoff apps would flood the market within the month. So, he made a move. Gang war. The Meteor Gang started mobilizing, and it didn't take long for spies from other factions to report back what was coming. And with that, a long-anticipated turf war was about to begin. TSK. I haven't seen a scene like this since I was 12, Ush muttered with amusement as he stood on a rooftop near the impending clash. He had rushed over the moment he heard his uncle was planning to fight. Even though his uncle had gotten a lot stronger, Ush knew better than to underestimate gang warfare. Anything could happen. Ush. You didn't even bring me along back then. So mean, Nyan huffed, hugging her arms with a pout. Ush glanced sideways. Didn't you go to another city with me that day? Huh? I did? Wait. Oh yeah, I forgot, Nyan said, tilting her head in confusion. In truth, Nyan had been in Ukexan that day, but Ush had decided it was too dangerous and kept her away. Still, Ush was surprised she even remembered. That had happened years ago. After all, Nyan wasn't him. Chapter 141. After calming Nyan down, Ush once again turned his attention to the street below. Skinny dog, the whole city's talking about it now. Everyone knows fanmtl hub is our Meteor Gang's turf. You barging in like this is just shameless, Grey Rat said coolly. He didn't open with violence, following gang tradition by first issuing a verbal warning. The one called Skinny Dog bared his teeth and grinned. Who the hell are you? I was in this game before you were off the bottle. Don't talk to me about face. You talk to my boss like that, you're gonna eat lead. Blue Rat snarled back immediately. Tisk tisk tisk. Your lackey sure has a temper. He jumps out before you can even say anything. If you can't keep your boys in check, maybe hand over your title and come shine my shoes instead. Ha ha ha, Skinny Dog cackled loudly. His cronies burst out laughing. Even the surrounding gangs watching the scene couldn't help but chuckle. Grey Rat calmly raised a hand, stopping Blue Rat from lunging. His eyes stayed locked on Skinny Dog. So, you're dead set on making enemies of us? Ha ha ha. Afraid, are you? This kind of business aimed for scared little rodents like you, Skinny Dog sneered. In that case, go to hell, Grey Rat said flatly. Bang. Bang. Without hesitation, Grey Rat pulled a pistol and fired twice at Skinny Dog. But before the bullets could hit him, they were intercepted by a massive woman, easily over 300 pounds, who stepped in front. When the bullet struck her, it was like hitting a giant water balloon. The impact was absorbed and the bullets dropped harmlessly to the ground. "You bastard! You really tried to kill me!" Skinny Dog barked in outrage. Bang bang bang. The standoff instantly exploded into a gunfight. Gray Rat, Blue Rat, and 3 hulking enforcers stepped forward, shielding the rest of the Meteor Gang members, who crouched behind them and opened fire. Each of the 3 bodyguards stood over 2 meters tall, bricks of muscle, unmistakably the gym rat type. They were some of the most imposing figures in the Meteor Gang. The watching gangs thought Gray Rat and company had lost their minds, standing out in the open like that. Until thud, thud, ping. Bullets bounced off Gray Rat's group like they'd hit rubber or armor. "What the?" the bystanders gasped. They finally understood why Gray Rat didn't hesitate to start a shootout. "You think we came unprepared?" Gray Rat scoffed. "Return fire. Wipe 'em out." Bang bang bang. Meteor Gang members returned fire with precision. Several of Skinny Dog's men dropped, screaming. "Take cover!" Skinny Dog shouted, face twisted in panic. He himself wasn't worried, he had human shields. But his grunts? Just regular guys. They couldn't take this kind of punishment. He had hoped to catch the Meteor Gang off guard, to overwhelm them before they could react. He hadn't expected them to have 5 men who were practically bulletproof. And Gray Rat was one of them. Impossible. Skinny Dog himself had never dared attempt Nen training. He'd heard about it, of course. But the failure rate was terrifying. You could die trying to awaken your aura. Most people just weren't willing to risk it. And now, here were 5 people in the Meteor Gang using what looked like body reinforcement Nen. The watching spies and gang members alike began to sweat. But fear wasn't enough to make them retreat. No way they'd let go of a cash cow like Shampoo Middle. Love Hub without a fight. If money could buy muscle, then it was only a matter of time before they got reinforcements too. "Damn it!" Skinny Dog growled. "Xiaoying, get out of here for now. Come back once this is settled." A strange woman, massive, bulletproof, and unsettlingly cheerful, nodded. "Okay, Gege, be careful, darling," she said sweetly. Skinny Dog winced but forced a loving expression. "You too. If you get hurt, it'll break my heart." Up on the rooftop, Ush gagged. "Ugh. No. Nope. I did not need to hear that." "Gege, you're so kind," Xiaoying beamed. Ush had goosebumps crawling all over him. He stopped listening and prayed the fight would just get going already. This was way too cringe. "Blue Rat, you want to take her, or should I?" Gray Rat asked, eyeing Xiaoying's tank-like physique. "You go. Your control over your Nen-enhanced rubber body is way better than mine," Blue Rat replied. Gray Rat nodded and stepped forward. The 3 other rubber body enforcers made no objection. It wasn't clear if Gray Rat's strength came from natural talent or because he had received the core manifestation of the ability from Ush himself, but his control was leagues ahead. He could easily execute what Ush had dubbed second gear and third gear techniques that boosted physical stats using Nen-enhanced elasticity. Blue Rat and the others could barely manage second gear, and even then, it was painful and unstable. They couldn't do bone inflation or internal aura cycling without discomfort. Only Gray Rat, the original recipient of the rubber-style Nen ability, could wield it smoothly. And now, he was about to prove it. Chapter 142. Whoa. If she weren't a Nen user, there's no way a girl this size could move that fast, Gray Rat muttered, watching as Xiaoying charged like a top. She looked like a stack of mismatched cakes in her tattered clothes, and her makeup was questionable, like she'd followed a YouTube tutorial halfway through and just stopped. I suggest you give up. You don't have aura, there's no way you can beat me, Xiaoying said seriously, slowing down just before reaching Grey Rat. She even lowered her voice so only he could hear. Grey Rat blinked. You're kind to warn me. So why are you running with that scumbag? Don't you dare insult my Gege, Xiaoying shouted, her cheeks puffing up. Only Gege knows how to love me. Ah. She's desperate for affection, Grey Rat realized, glancing toward Skinny Dog in the distance, who was watching this unfold with clenched teeth. The guy looked like he was grinding gravel in his mouth. Forget it, Grey Rat sighed, turning back to her. I'm taking that bastard out tonight. Otherwise, the Meteor Gang's reputation means nothing. He squared his stance. If you don't want to die, move. Die? You want to kill my Gege? Xiaoying howled. She charged like a tank. Grey Rat didn't flinch. Instead, he dashed toward her, but while running, he let his right arm stretch backward, rubbery and elongated. Rubber bullet, he shouted, clearly a fan of shonen anime. Whoosh. His fist whipped forward like a slingshot and smashed into Xiaoying's belly with tremendous force. Smack. His knuckles sank into her stomach by several centimeters. Then bounced right off. Ha ha ha. Useless. Skinny Dog cackled from the sidelines. Her body's like a giant balloon. You'll never hurt her. No, not a balloon. More like a living non-Newtonian fluid, Ush thought from his rooftop perch. Her body was absorbing and diffusing impact with every hit. An advanced defensive Nen technique. Simple on the surface, but effective. She may have been a third-rate Nen user in most ways, but her defense was top-tier. Even second-rate Nen users might struggle to hurt her. Impressive, Ush muttered. Didn't expect her to have developed something this refined. Especially her. Xiaoying smiled smugly. You really don't have aura. I'm telling you, give up. But Grey Rat said nothing. He crouched slightly. And then, something changed. His legs compressed like pumps. Chi. Steam hissed out of his skin. His aura surged. What the hell is happening? I don't know, but it looks intense. Big deal. Looks aren't strength. He can't even get through her fat. Meteor Gang's done for tonight. Good. If they fall, we get the shampoo market. Yeah, let 'em get stomped. While the peanut gallery snickered and speculated, Xiaoying's smile faltered. She could see the Nen now. She glanced over her shoulder, toward Skinny Dog. He was yelling orders to his crew, totally unaware of her situation. But she held on to hope. If she won, Gege would praise her. Maybe even marry her. Where are you looking? The voice came from right in front of her. A massive gust of wind slammed into her chest. And the next thing she knew, her 300-kilo body was airborne. Slam. She crashed into the ground near Skinny Dog like a dropped safe. What? I got launched? When did he even move? How could he be this fast? He has aura? Since when? Then another thought hit her. Wait, he hit me. In the chest. He touched me? I've been violated. Xiaoying panicked, spinning in place and crawling away, horrified. Don't come near me. She screamed. Skinny Dog turned toward her, face pale. Crack. Xiaoying's body slammed into him before she could stop. One of his legs bent unnaturally as it crumpled under the impact. Agh. My leg. You idiot. You useless pig. Why'd you hit me? I told you to win. Not crush me, you freaking hippo. Hey hunters. Quick break again. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Let's dive back in. Chapter 143. The mangy dog, now howling with pain from his broken leg, lashed out in a fury, kicking Xiaoying repeatedly with his good foot just to vent his frustration. He was too consumed by rage to even see the reality of the situation. Gege, I didn't mean it. Don't be angry. We can find a doctor. The doctor will fix your leg. Xiaoying pleaded, her voice trembling. Gege? Shut up. Don't ever say that disgusting word again. I've had enough of you, you fat freak. What, you really thought I'd marry you? Look at yourself. I'd rather die. The mangy dog snapped, face twisted with hatred. The venom in his words struck harder than any bullet. Xiaoying froze, staring at him like she didn't recognize the man she adored. All that crap you said to me before. Was it all a lie? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Damn right it was. I can't even get up now because of you. You crushed my leg, you useless cow. Xiaoying sat down heavily, her whole body slumping as if all life had drained out of her. Tch. Pathetic, Grey Rat spat, walking straight up to the mangy dog, ignoring the pistol still aimed his way. You can't even lie properly. At least wait until someone pulls your leg out before you go spouting all this garbage. I'm starting to think you don't even have a brain, just picked one up off the street. He glanced at Xiaoying, then turned back to the mangy dog with a cold stare. Kill him. Shoot him. The mangy dog screamed in desperation, veins bulging in his neck. But the gangsters hiding behind cover hesitated. They glanced at one another, then. Nothing. Not a single shot was fired. They'd all seen how useless bullets were against Grey Rat. That steam-covered body, moving too fast to track, how could they hope to hit that? Clack, clack. Several gangsters dropped their pistols and raised their hands in surrender. Trash. You're all trash. The mangy dog shrieked. Pick those guns back up and kill him. Kill them all. But no one moved. The rest of his crew followed suit, tossing away their weapons. You really think I won't kill you? Grey Rat crouched beside him, sneering. I'm already standing over you, and you're still pretending like you're in control. Ha! Ha ha ha! The mangy dog suddenly chuckled, face twisted with arrogance. You don't dare kill me. Do you know who I work for? I'm Undersick Dog, one of the shadow beasts. You wanna die for real? Go ahead, shoot me. That name made the crowd stir. Wait, did he say shadow beast? Is that for real? No way. That gang's connected to the 10 Dons. If it is true, then the Meteor Gang is finished. The room filled with murmurs and nervous laughter. Grey Rat stood silent for a moment, face unreadable. Even Ush, watching from a rooftop nearby, narrowed his eyes. The shadow beasts, he thought. So those guys are in the picture now? They were elite enforcers of the 10 Dons. Each one, a master-level Nen user. One-man armies. Powerful, yes, but more importantly, connected. If this mangy dog was really tied to Sick Dog, this wasn't just gang turf war anymore. This was brushing against the 10 Dons themselves. I didn't expect this. That cake you guys baked is big enough to attract monsters, Ush muttered. Are they strong? Nyan asked, looking up at him with wide eyes. It's not about strength, Ush replied, his expression serious. It's about politics. Killing this guy could mean offending people we owe favors to. But you'll still help, right? She asked, quietly. Ush nodded. Yeah. If it comes down to it, I'll step in. Back down below. You're bluffing. Blue Rat shouted suddenly, stepping forward and pointing. You're not with the shadow beasts at all. He shot a look at Grey Rat, and Grey Rat immediately caught on. Yeah. He added loudly. You're slandering Sick Dog's name. You think they'd send you to do their dirty work? Without wasting another breath, Grey Rat reached for the pistol tucked behind his back. Wait. Boom, Chapter 144. Although he'd heard the shout, Grey Rat acted like he hadn't. He pulled the trigger. The bullet tore clean through the mangy dog's forehead, the smug grin still frozen on his face. A split second later, the back of his skull burst open, spraying brain matter onto the pavement. Silence. Everyone, gangsters, spies, onlookers, stood frozen. Nobody had expected Grey Rat to pull the trigger that fast, that decisively. Then, heads slowly turned toward the source of the earlier shout. Gulp. Someone recognized him. A wiry man with a spiked buzzcut, wearing a black t-shirt and olive cargo pants, strolled toward the scene with his hands in his pockets, looking completely unimpressed. Sick Dog. One of the shadow beasts. An elite enforcer under the 10 Dons. Known across the underworld for his brutality and power. His Nen ability? Piercing venomous fangs, anyone bitten is paralyzed by a powerful neurotoxin. Even someone as tough as Yuvagin would have trouble resisting it. Great, Ush muttered from the rooftop, scratching his head. That really was one of Sick Dog's people. Uncle's got guts, I'll give him that. Just shot the guy without blinking. He's so skinny, Nyan said, peering through a pair of binoculars. He doesn't look scary at all. Ush chuckled. Yeah, he looks harmless. But that guy's a killer. Meanwhile, the mood on the street had shifted drastically. A heavy silence hung over the Meteor Gang's ranks. Grey Rat, Blue Rat, and the others stood tense as Sick Dog approached. Every step felt like a countdown. Some of the younger members shuffled backward, their eyes wide. Cold sweat trickled down their backs as an invisible pressure weighed on them. Sick Dog stopped a few feet from Grey Rat, leaned forward slightly, and spoke with a voice like a blade across stone. Didn't you hear me say stop? Boom. Killer intent exploded off him like a shockwave. His aura flooded the street, pressing down on Grey Rat like a lead blanket. His spine bent involuntarily under the weight, and Blue Rat beside him began to shiver uncontrollably. Teeth chattered. Their limbs trembled as if they'd been tossed naked into a frozen wasteland. I didn't hear you until after I fired, Grey Rat replied with effort. Then, without hesitation, he crouched down and pumped both legs like pistons, forcing his blood to surge. Second gear. Steam hissed from his pores. The rush of heated blood helped him resist the aura's chill, as a faint Nen shroud wrapped around his body. Blue Rat quickly followed, activating his own second gear. The other rubber-powered members did the same. Sick Dog narrowed his eyes. Where did you get this ability? Grey Rat hesitated, then said, It's mine. Yours? Sick Dog still looked skeptical, but backed off slightly. Humph. Fine. Then come with me. What? You're coming with me, Sick Dog repeated. You're mine now. Grey Rat frowned. I'm sorry, Mr. Sick Dog, but I have no intention of folding the Meteor Gang into anyone else's operation. I respectfully. He didn't finish. Wham. Sick Dog's hand clamped around Grey Rat's throat like a steel vise. You think this is a negotiation? He growled. That was an order. Obey. Or die. His fingers tightened. But Grey Rat only blinked, and smiled. He didn't feel a thing. Rubber body. Blunt force doesn't work on him. Using pressure against a rubber man? That's either ignorance. Or arrogance. Grey Rat's eyes hardened. Boom. He drove his fist straight into Sick Dog's chest. It landed clean. Sick Dog staggered back, but just for a second. He landed smoothly a few meters away, sliding to a stop. His center of gravity held firm. A normal person would have gone flying. Third gear. Grey Rat shouted, biting into his thumb joint and inflating his arm. In seconds, his right fist swelled to the size of a small truck. Slap. Ush groaned and palmed his face from the rooftop. Uncle, come on. You could have held your own in second gear. Why the third gear flex? Now it looks like a joke. He sighed. Skill for skill, Sick Dog's an enhancer with actual Nen mastery. The guy's probably pushing 60 tons of force. Gray Rat? Maybe 2. Maybe. Down below, the difference in levels was about to become painfully clear. Chapter 145. If your mastery of Nen fundamentals is weak, no amount of raw power will make up for it. Even though Gray Rat possessed the awakened rubber fruit backed by 4,500 aura points, his strength was still no match for Sick Dog. And instead of using speed to keep up with his opponent's rhythm, he went with third gear to amplify brute force? Ush was baffled. Whoosh. Just as expected, Sick Dog easily dodged the slow, oversized punch from above. With sharp reflexes, he lunged at Gray Rat, mouth wide open, aiming right for his neck. If that bite landed, Gray Rat would have been bleeding out in seconds, a chunk of his neck torn clean off. Ush didn't hesitate. Smack. In a blur, his hand caught Sick Dog mid-lunge, right at the neck. Then, in the same motion, Ush's arms transformed into hardened white wax, binding the shadow beast in a series of restrictive coils and locks. Sick Dog's eyes widened in shock. In an instant, his mouth was gagged, his limbs restrained. He couldn't even speak. He thrashed violently, but the Nen-infused wax refused to give an inch. Even activating Ken, hardening, didn't help. The restraints held. Meanwhile, Rag. Gray Rat was still charging up, giant fist cocked back, preparing to bring it down like a hammer. Uncle, Ush shouted in exasperation. You were literally 1 second away from getting your throat ripped out. After yelling, Ush waved his hand and summoned Nyan to his side on the rooftop. Leaving her alone was risky, especially in a crowd full of unknown variables. Safety first. He had the scene under control anyway. He'd grown a lot. Stronger. More confident. The wax ability? He wielded it without hesitation now, even out in the open. Wah, what just happened? Gray Rat blinked in confusion as he looked at Ush, Nyan, and the immobilized Sick Dog. Blue Rat grinned. What happened is, you almost died. If Ush hadn't stepped in, that guy would have had your jugular halfway down his throat. That's ridiculous. That punch was strong, Gray Rat insisted. Blue Rat pointed. Doesn't matter. He was going to bite your neck, not your fist. You were dead either way. Gray Rat turned to Ush, who sighed and crossed his arms. Uncle. I know third gear looks cool. But Sick Dog's a speed type with high-level Nen control. You need to match speed with speed. Use second gear. Not go full kaiju mode. He added dryly, if you want to die early and have me prep a gravestone, by all means, keep fighting like that. Okay, I get it, Gray Rat said sheepishly. Lesson learned. Ush turned toward the still wrapped Sick Dog. The real problem now is, what do we do with this guy? Everyone went quiet. Killing a shadow beast? That wasn't just a bold move, it was suicidal. The 10 Dons wouldn't let that slide. If they struck down Sick Dog here, the Meteor Gang would have a death sentence by sunrise. Ush glanced around at the dozens of spies from other gangs who were still watching the scene unfold. He clenched his jaw. Of course he wanted to end Sick Dog here. The guy tried to kill Gray Rat. But too many eyes were on them. Too much risk. We let him go, Ush said, voice tight. His eyes glinted, subtle, cold, calculating. Guess we've got no choice, Gray Rat muttered. Ush turned and led the others away. The gang followed without another word, leaving Sick Dog lying bound in the street, alongside Xiaoying and the beaten-down thugs. After walking several meters, Ush flicked his hand behind his back. The wax restraints around Sick Dog dissolved, vanishing like mist. Sick Dog slowly got to his feet, eyes locked on Ush's retreating figure. It wasn't gratitude he felt. It was venom. Rage. Humiliation. The desire to kill. But he wasn't stupid. He knew what just happened. Ush had moved faster than he could see. Caught him effortlessly. He didn't stand a chance. He clenched his teeth and turned away, eyes scanning the city. There would be another chance. Another time. He'd either gather the other shadow beasts, or find a way to bring the 10 Dons down on Ush himself. Up above, Ush watched him go, arms folded. After saying goodbye to Grey Rat and the others, he vanished, instantly reappearing on a rooftop high above the scene. He watched the thin figure below disappear into the bustling streets of Ukexan City, moving fast. Heading toward the airport on the outskirts. Ush narrowed his eyes. Tracking. Watching. Waiting. Chapter 146. It was true, if he made a move inside Ukexan City, it would draw far too much attention. Above the clouds, Ush strolled casually in midair, his expression calm and confident as he watched Sick Dog below. Under each step was a slender thread of white wax, extending and retracting continuously, never exceeding a meter in length. Yet despite this, Ush walked as if the sky were solid ground. This wasn't his usual high-speed travel method. No long-distance teleporting or bursts of movement. Just a slow, steady walk, adjusting elevation slightly with each step, enough to keep him suspended above the streets. Below, Sick Dog remained unaware he was being followed. He sat in the backseat of a dark vehicle, heading toward the airport on Ukexan's outskirts, his expression clouded and brooding. His mind churned, haunted by the memory of how easily Ush had restrained him. 18 years old? There was no prior record of him being able to use Nen. That means he must have awakened this year. He took part in the Hunter exam recently, which ended on January 23rd. He returned to Ukexan on the 27th. That gives him barely over a month of training. But he went to Heaven's Arena and became the floor master. That's impossible. How the hell did he get so strong in 1 month? Unless he awakened Nen long ago, and just kept it hidden. The thought settled like a stone in Sick Dog's gut. Yeah, that must be it. No one develops this fast. Not unless they've been hiding their skills for years. He narrowed his eyes. His memory played back the image of Ush's wax-based attacks, how they formed, how they moved, how they felt. That white material. It must be wax. He's probably a manipulator or conjurer. Nen molded into hardened wax, fully under his control. A manipulator who's been this stealthy for years. That's someone with long-term vision. Sick Dog clenched his fists. He wasn't afraid for nothing. Ush was clearly someone who should have killed him back there. And that's why Sick Dog had rushed to the airport. He wasn't naive. He knew someone like Ush wouldn't just let a threat to his family live. So he left before Ush could reconsider, betting that the younger man wouldn't make a move in public. In the car, Sick Dog glanced outside, scanning his surroundings. Then, he laughed. I'm getting paranoid. I saw Ush leave with the Noser girl. No way he could have tracked me this fast. That gave him some comfort. TCH. You didn't kill me today, Ush. But I won't stay quiet. You think being strong is enough? I'll pull in the other shadow beasts. I'll make the 10 Dons turn on you. I don't care how strong you are, no one stands alone forever. He whispered all this to himself, too low for even the driver to hear. But Ush, floating quietly above the car, heard it clearly. He smirked. Same strategy as me, huh? Well, I'm better at it. Ush had never believed in the so-called rules of the underground world. All those codes about protecting family, or no unnecessary bloodshed? Those were illusions, just methods of control used by the 10 dons to keep the lower gangs in line. If you had enough power, anything was possible. Even betrayal. That's why Ush didn't act inside the city. Not out of fear, but because he preferred to clean up quietly. And now, Sick Dog was outside city limits. Ush's time had come. From above, he watched as Sick Dog boarded a private airship and lifted off from Ukexan airspace. Ush didn't follow immediately. He maintained distance, biding his time. Step by step, he ascended, calmly keeping track. Eventually, after an hour, the airship descended at a nearby city. Sick Dog disembarked. He's circling back. Ush narrowed his eyes. Even now, Sick Dog was being cautious. That only confirmed how dangerous he was. But Ush had no intention of letting him reset the board. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a bottle of ice water. Tens of thousands of meters above the earth, he popped the cap and poured it out. The freezing air took hold instantly, turning the falling water into a rapidly forming ice spear. Ush caught it mid-formation and refined the shape further with his nen. This wasn't just some parlor trick. He infused the spear with aura and distance-based enhancement, boosting its speed and durability. He gripped it tightly. Focused. Ordinary physics would make this useless, the air friction would melt it before it landed. But this isn't ordinary. He lifted the spear overhead. Let's see how tough you are, Shadow Beast. Then he threw it. A gleaming white projectile, sharp and silent, plummeting toward the unsuspecting man below. And it was only just beginning. Chapter 147. The combination of these two nen abilities, or a reinforcement to keep the icicle stable, and spatial manipulation to control its trajectory, was precisely why Ush chose this seemingly absurd method of assassination. With aura reinforcing the structure, the icicle didn't melt. With his distance-type Hatsu, Ush could throw the icicle across cities, and hit a moving target with pinpoint accuracy. Below, Sick Dog strolled through a crowded street, unaware that death had already been dealt from above. He was heading to the next city, preparing to switch vehicles. Why do I feel so uneasy? He muttered. He weaved through the pedestrians with practiced ease, distracted by his paranoia, until TSK. A sharp pain struck through his chest. Sick Dog froze, eyes widening as blood burst from his mouth. He looked down to see a crystal-clear icicle protruding from his chest. How? I still had 10 active. He staggered. Nearby civilians screamed. Ah! Someone's dead. Did something fall from the sky? Another burst of blood splashed from Sick Dog's mouth. His fingers trembled. Could it be? He rasped. His eyes rolled back, and his body slumped, suspended from the icicle like a gruesome ornament. Call the police. Where did this thing even come from? Get under cover, something fell from the sky. Chaos erupted as people fled to nearby buildings. Some dialed emergency numbers, trying to describe the impossible scene. A man skewered by an icicle, under a clear sky. Ush paid them no mind. He had already confirmed the kill. With his current ability to traverse nearly 6 kilometers in a single step, he casually walked back toward Ukexan. Upon returning home, Ush found the living room empty, except for the sound of running water. He walked to the bathroom door and knocked. Knock knock. Nyan. You've been in there over an hour. What are you even doing? From inside, Nyan, who was lazily playing with bubbles in the tub, blinked and said, Huh? That long already? Why hasn't Arisa called me? You forgot? Arisa and the others are at your place. You only came over here last minute. Ooh. No wonder. I thought she forgot about me, Nyan said, then promptly stood up, rinsed off, and dashed out of the bath, still dripping. Ush caught her mid-sprint and sighed. Dry off. If you catch a cold again, You're taking your meds whether you like it or not. He wrapped her in a towel and began drying her hair. He, I dare you, Nyeon said with a mischievous grin. A quiet but warm evening passed like that. The next day, Ush and Nyeon returned to class as usual. But the criminal underworld was in chaos. First, it was reported that Grey Rat from the Meteor Gang had killed Mangy Dog, halting the hostile takeover by rival gangs. Second, it was revealed that Mangy Dog had been a subordinate of the Shadow Beast Sick Dog, which caused a huge stir. Third, eyewitnesses confirmed that Ush, now recognized as a top-tier Nen user, had subdued Sick Dog in a direct confrontation the previous night. But fourth, and most shocking, was that Sick Dog himself had been killed on the street, impaled through the heart by a falling icicle. An elite enhancer, brought down by something that shouldn't have been possible. Even more shocking, the icicle hadn't shattered. It stayed intact, embedded cleanly through his chest. People were baffled. Conspiracy theories exploded. Of course, the first suspect was Ush. He had motive. He had power. The timing matched. But upon investigation, there was no link. The 10 Dons asked around. Didn't Ush use a wax-based Nen? That doesn't match the weapon used. Also, he never left Ukexen. He was seen creating and manipulating white wax all night. And as any Nen expert knew, a person's Hatsu typically revolves around a singular concept. Even with multiple effects, they remain internally consistent. White wax and ice. No connection. Thus, the suspicion toward Ush faded. Even the 10 Dons concluded there must be another killer, perhaps one of the Shadow Beast's rivals. Ush, of course, agreed wholeheartedly. It's a shame, he said, feigning concern. He was a valuable asset to the organization. If anyone claims I had anything to do with this, they're clearly slandering me. I'll take legal action if necessary. His statement was bold, firm, and unwavering. So firm, in fact, that most of the underworld believed him. After all, if he had really done it, wouldn't he be more careful? Meanwhile, Ush simply returned to his studies. Final semester, he muttered. I've got no time to go hunting down murderers. I wish the 10 Dons the best of luck. Such compassion. Such forgiveness. What a truly kind-hearted soul. Chapter 148. The death of Sick Dog sent shockwaves through criminal syndicates across the world. But after half a month of frantic investigation, not a single clue had surfaced. All they had was one consensus. The attack came from high altitude. Wow. Brilliant deduction. Ush nearly burst out laughing when he heard that, but he was professionally trained. He could keep a straight face even if a clown cartwheeled through a funeral. Still, even he found it hilarious. So much manpower and money wasted, and in the end, the 10 Dons had no choice but to abandon the case. The cost outweighed the benefit. A slap in the face. Sure. But ego doesn't pay the bills. More importantly, the Shadow Beasts were now one member short, and needed to fill the gap quickly. At first, some of the 10 Dons floated the idea of recruiting Ush. He was, after all, undeniably stronger than Sick Dog. But others immediately vetoed it. Ush's close relationship with Grey Rat wasn't a secret. And the sudden rise of the Meteor Gang's shampoo love platform had made them one of the wealthiest gangs in Ukexen. Nobody believed that Grey Rat came up with that on his own. All the gangs in the world, and only you figured this out? Please. It was obviously Ush behind the scenes. And if he was that valuable, the 10 Dons agreed, why waste him on assassination duty? He belongs in management, one said. No need to pit him against the other Shadow Beasts. Can't we wait until he graduates high school? Why wait? Every month we waste is another stack of money we're not making. Still, it's only 3 months. Let the kid enjoy school while he can. Fine, Then we'll wait till graduation. But make sure we lock him in after that. Instead, they shifted focus to filling the combat role. What about Greyrat? Someone asked. He awakened a nen that can turn others into rubber, could be valuable. Too weak for assassinations. Then don't send him on assassinations. Make him a bodyguard. Right. If his rubber nen works on others, he could be our best defense against guns and explosives. Exactly. Blunt force wouldn't matter. He'd make us nearly immune to traditional threats. I heard he once enlarged his fist to over 10 meters. One added. That made the room fall silent. Then they all looked at each other. Then at their crotches. Then back up. A beat passed. Then they burst into raucous, old man laughter. The decision was made. Greyrat would become a shadow beast, not for assassination, but as a special defense asset. And since each Don wanted him nearby, they compromised. Greyrat would remain in Ukexen, and whenever a Don required protection, they'd travel to him under the pretext of a negotiation. When Greyrat received the news, he was stunned at first, then ecstatic. He didn't even have to move. The Meteor Gang held a massive banquet to celebrate. Ush and Nyon were, of course, invited. Oh no, Ush muttered, seeing his uncle grinning ear to ear, now officially designated as the Shadow Beast Greyrat. This wasn't ideal. In a few months, September, to be exact, the Phantom Troop would descend on Ukexen. And when they did, they would wipe out nearly every Shadow Beast. Only one would survive, the Owl, spared solely because Krilo needed his Nen ability. Now that Greyrat was on that list, conflict was inevitable. Ush thought about talking his uncle out of it, but one glance at Greyrat's joy, and he knew there was no convincing him. Besides, the 10 Dons would never let him leave so easily. Ush stayed quiet. Then, he joined the celebration. If something's going to happen in September, he thought, then I've got 6 months to prepare. Ush had no doubt he could keep getting stronger. But making his uncle strong enough in 6 months. That was the real challenge. Then, suddenly, an idea sparked in his mind. His expression sharpened. That could work. Chapter 149. Greed Island. Ush had set his sights on it. Although consoles for the game were nearly impossible to find on the open market, Ush knew exactly who held several in reserve. Of course, getting one wouldn't be easy, but he was confident. Because he had something the man desperately needed. A trade was inevitable. And Ush knew the other party would agree. On a mountain estate, a lavish castle stood tall. Inside, world-renowned tycoon Batara sat beside a bed, gazing at the woman lying silently beneath the covers, his Sleeping Beauty. No, not like Sleeping Beauty. She was one. The woman he loved had fallen victim to a rare disease years ago. Her life now depended on technology and hope. And of all the options he'd scoured, Greed Island remained his greatest and most elusive one. Suddenly, the silence was broken. Master! Master, please, there's an urgent call you need to take. A maid cried out, rushing into the room. Batara's first instinct was fury, interruptions were forbidden in this space. But when he saw the maid's panicked expression, trained since childhood never to break decorum, he froze. If she dared rush in like this, it could only mean one thing, Alice. With a racing heart, Batara snatched the phone from her trembling hands. I'm not in the mood for games, speak. What do you want? A calm, young voice answered. How convenient. Neither am I. I want one of your unused Greed Island consoles. In exchange, I'll help you with your woman's condition. Batara's pupils widened. Truth or not, it didn't matter. Hope was everything. Where should I send the console? Most of mine have already been used, 4-player capacity is the best I can offer. I hope that's acceptable. 4 is fine, the voice replied. In return, I'll promise to heal your lover within 3 months of entering the game. If you agree, bring the console to Ukexen and contact the Meteor Gang's point man. There was no hesitation. Done. Ready my airship, I'm heading for Ukexen. Across the city, Ush hung up the phone. The one who'd just spoken to Batara, of course, was him. Ever since Greyrat became a shadow beast, Ush had been thinking. If he wanted his uncle to survive September, and the eventual clash with the Phantom Troop, he needed to act now. It wasn't enough to become stronger himself. Ush needed to upgrade his uncle too. That meant only 2 viable paths. His own miracle fruits. Or the magical cards and items inside Greed Island. For example, card number 70, Dr. Cure's Muscle Enhancer, could rapidly boost physical stats. The deal with Batara went off without a hitch. As someone with a growing reputation across the underworld, Ush's name commanded trust, even admiration. But to sweeten the deal, Ush made one final promise: if after 3 months Batara's lover still couldn't be healed, Ush would personally complete the game for him. To Batara, it was a no-brainer. A game console and 3 months for either a cure, or the guaranteed help of someone who could defeat a shadow beast? An easy decision. Even Huela, Batara's own top Greed Island strategist, had admitted she wasn't a match for Ush. Later, at Ush's home, Nyan stared at the white console on the table. This is the Greed Island thing that costs billions? It looks boring. Ush smirked. The console's not the point. The game is. Nyan frowned. What's so important about a game? Because this one's real. It doesn't just simulate reality. It is reality. A real world, built using Nen. Nyan blinked. Wait. Nen can do that? Absolutely. The creators, led by Jing Freaks, used the lives of hundreds of Nen users to power it. Not aura. Life force. They traded it directly to forge a permanent, stable game world. Ush admired that level of commitment. It wasn't just draining life energy. It was a Nen-based contract binding souls to a purpose. They hadn't just created a game. They had sacrificed lives to build a new world. Chapter 150. Greed Island. A Nen-based game where players can enter a real, physical world. While inside, players gain access to spell-like systems. If they die without exiting the game first, their life energy is permanently absorbed by Greed Island. It was this binding contract, created through Nen, that allowed Jing Freaks and the other developers to imbue Greed Island with real power. The sacrifice of even a single Nen user could sustain the game for centuries. Naturally, developers were forbidden from directly killing players. The game's aura economy could only draw from deaths that occurred organically during gameplay. This absorbed aura would circulate through Greed Island, recharging key systems and magical cards, like the infamous Silent Waltz of the monks. Compared to Ush, who could absorb and inject life energy into props without any such constraints, the Greed Island system seemed rigid. But its benefit was instability. And for certain Nen users who chose to live inside Greed Island permanently, it really was a kind of paradise. Well, at least for those willing to settle. Almost every long-term resident of the game was a third-rate Nen user, unable to develop advanced techniques. They got by using only Ten and Ren, never reaching Hatsu. As for getting rich inside the game, only if they won the lottery. The rules sound intense. Are the items inside really that powerful? Nyan asked, intrigued. They're not just powerful, they're unique. I'm planning to go in and train for a while, Ush replied, smiling. Then I'm coming too, Nyan said immediately. Of course you are. I figured you'd resist training again. Fortunately, there's one item in the game that fits your style perfectly. Ush grinned knowingly. Nice. But what about school? She asked, blinking. We'll take a leave of absence. Nothing major. Ush waved it off like it was nothing. After deciding, the two began preparing. With their family situations, neither of them could simply vanish into a game without explanation. As bizarre as it sounded, taking time off school to play a video game, no one objected. Especially Wright, who originally worried that Nyeon's absence might disrupt her prophecy work. But when he learned Ush would return with Nyeon every weekend, he was completely reassured. As for safety? Please, Wright had seen Ush overpower a shadow beast. There was no safer bodyguard in the world. When all preparations were finished, Ush and Nyeon returned to Ush's room. He placed 2 Greed Island rings and memory cards on the table and handed one of each to Nyeon. Follow my steps exactly. Wait until the screen shows now playing, then do what I do, Ush instructed, demonstrating. Nyeon nodded. First, Ush slid the ring onto his left index finger, then inserted the memory card into the console. Now, place both hands on the sides of the console and channel your aura, Ush said, pressing his palms down and releasing a steady pulse of Nen. Fwoosh. In the next second, Ush's body vanished into thin air. Whooshin? Nyeon blinked in surprise, looking around. Miss Nyeon, I believe this is what Master Ush intended, said Arisa from behind. Nyeon froze, then remembered what Ush had told her. This was no ordinary game. It was real. Of course he'd vanish. She calmed herself and waited for her turn. Meanwhile, Ush found himself in a dimly lit room covered in intricate symbols and murals. After examining it briefly, he walked toward a single door on the far side. Clunk. It opened on its own as he approached, like an automatic sensor. He stepped into a narrow hallway and proceeded until he met a familiar figure. A short, mechanical-looking woman with expressionless eyes, Ada, one of Greed Island's original system NPCs and tutorial guides. Welcome, Mr. Ush, Ada said. Let me now explain the rules of Greed Island. She recited the gameplay mechanics clearly and efficiently. Even though Ush already knew them, he listened carefully in case any new restrictions had been introduced. Nope, everything matched his knowledge. Book opens the inventory of collected cards. Gain activates a card, converting it back into a usable item. Once an item is turned back into a prop via gain, it cannot be reconverted into a card. Each player's card slots are limited in number and type. If a card is left unused and not stored in the book for over 1 minute, it automatically reverts to its physical form. If a player dies, their book and all its data vanish. If a player leaves the game and does not return within 10 days, their cards are erased as well. It was all exactly as Ush remembered. And now that he was inside, it was time to get to work.